Greg Nibbler with Fox 12 Oregon here at the Fox 12 Now desk, and thank you everybody for joining us. You know, one of the biggest news stories here coming out over the last couple of days has been the city of Portland and the Portland Police Union reaching an agreement on body cameras, something that has been talked about for a long time, whether or not they can use it. There's been months of negotiations, including everybody coming together in a federal court last Friday. But now we have more news on what is going on with that. And joining me is our own Adrian Thomas, who's been covering this story today, all the latest developments. And Adrian, thank you very much for being here with us. So kind of walk us through what's been happening here today. What have you been covering with this?
So the biggest thing that I've been trying to figure out today, and this has been a couple hours worth of pouring through the new body cam footage or the body camera documents, is the issue of whether PPB officers will be able to actually review their footage after a use of force incident before making a statement. This has been the biggest point of contention in the city and the Portland Police Association, the PPA, that's the PPB's officers union. That's kind of been the biggest point of contention that's actually caused a stalemate in recent months on finally finalizing this body camera agreement.
So, talking about that real stipulation there, that's been kind of this big disagreement. What are the main issues that each side kind of had with that?
Well, the basically the the police officers union, they wanted to have all officers have the opportunity to review any of the body camera footage before making a statement, after a use of force incident. And the city and, the Department of Justice was saying no, that you can't review any of that footage before you can't review any of that footage before giving a statement in the aftermath of a use of force incident. Well, the agreement and the document that's on the city's website that outlines the policy basically says after any use of force incident, prior to giving any sort of statement, officers cannot review that footage. And it's pretty layered depending on the kind of use of force. For non-lethal, any non-lethal use of force incident, witness or involved officers actually have to give a statement right there at the scene to a supervisor describing what happened. And then after that happens, then they can go and review their own body camera footage for any other reports that they do after the fact. And now it gets a little bit more complicated with a deadly use of force incident. According to the policy, and within 48 hours of that use of force incident, the involved officer with their lawyer sits down with the internal affairs the internal affairs investigators at PPB and gives an audio recorded statement, basically based off their memory on what happened. And the neither the internal affairs investigators nor the involved officer get to look at that body camera footage prior to that audio recorded interview. After the involved officer gives their statement of what happened, then the involved officer and their lawyer go into a different room along they go into a different room, and then the internal affairs investigator goes into a separate room. Everybody separately reviews the body-worn camera footage, and then they come back together, and the audio recorded interview continues, and any discrepancies are, any discrepancies are hashed out. And according to the document, this whole statement that the involved officer gives before looking at the footage of the deadly incident, it's called a perceptual statement. And the document says the perceptual statement is intended to capture the involved officer's state of mind and perceptions at the time of the incident. So especially when it comes to the deadly use of force, they want officers to give a statement just kind of based on purely on what happened, to kind of capture, the mood and just what all exactly went down from their own recollections, and then kind of go review the footage and then come back together, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So it's pretty layered, all of the use of force as it comes, to the body camera footage and whatnot. But the city and the Portland Police Association last night, both sides put out statements saying they're happy with this agreement, even though this body camera review policy is something that was a point of contention on both sides. We are set to interview the president of the Portland Police Association, the police officers union, this afternoon. So we're going to press him a little bit more about this, and say like, okay, are you guys happy with this agreement, and kind of how it's all hashed out, because he didn't really answer that last night when asked by reporters. He said, oh, the policy will be out tomorrow and you guys can see it then. He didn't really give any sort of feeling on it. So there's a lot to still discuss here about, especially how police officers in Portland will feel about this policy.
Yeah, especially with how divided this seems to have been, beforehand, and where is it that they found these points to come together, and yeah, who's happy about it, who's not happy about it. Looking at it, from this standpoint, once they release all of this, what's kind of the timeline of what happens? Does this go under review again? Does this get ratified? Can you kind of walk us through, if where this goes from here?
So pretty much the next step is at a city council session next week. This will be discussed and essentially ratified by the mayor and city council, and then it will start to be rolled out.
And how long does that take? Do you know?
That is a detail that is it.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand all this stuff is coming out right now. So
yeah. That is a detail. It is there. I still need to clarify that. But the biggest issue today when covering this story was kind of figuring out this body camera debate, because that was the main issue of why this was basically stalled from both sides, because there was just this point of contention in this disagreement. So later today in my full story, we'll get kind of a bigger timeline of when this will all be rolled out, and what what the Portland Police Association is feeling about this policy now that both sides have come to an agreement. The whole body camera review thing seemed to have sided with the city and the Department of Justice, so it's going to be interesting to see just what the president of the union has to say now that this agreement's finally going to be rolling out.
Well, I know you've been, working really hard on this, and like you said, your entire coverage is going to be here later this evening, but you've got these interviews coming up, so a lot to find out, and appreciate you out there asking all these questions and getting the answers to some of this stuff and kind of clarifying this. It seems like it's a pretty complicated thing that's going on, so really,
Yes.
For the community to really understand, there's a lot to dissect here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Adrian, thank you very much for joining us. I know you're busy. I know you got to get out there and get those other interviews and all of your work. So appreciate you joining us here on Fox 12 Now. I'll get back to it.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Adrian. All right, so there we go. That's Adrian Thomas. So again, his coverage is going to be coming out later today. He's going to be doing those interviews, so lots to find out on this. It's kind of breaking news as this happens, and we appreciate all of his work and appreciate everybody who's joining us wherever you are. So again, this is Fox 12 Now. This is our digital desk. This is our new setup here that you're taking a look at. So you're going to get kind of used to this, and where we're going to be covering deeper coverage of a lot of news stories. We'll have some other things that are going to be happening too. Any kind of breaking news will be here. So wherever you're finding us, thank you. Bookmark that, and you can join us again. And we have some more stuff actually coming up today. So make sure you stick around. I think about 1:45, we'll be back on here talking about some other things, talking about actually the frog ferry, that the new system of transportation, mass transportation, that is trying to get going here in Portland, and there's some renewed efforts to get some funding for that. So we'll be taking a little bit of a deeper dive with that later on too. But for Fox 12 Oregon, I'm